definition, people have different definition of innovation, and for a tech focused company, they get very excited with this technology, and what the technology's different parameters are. But in the end, for me, a real innovation is using the technology to bring value to the users who are willing to pay for it. Right? That's the real hallmark of innovation. You can have amazing demos in the labs at conferences, but if it doesn't generate business for you, then it's of no use. But again, having said that, it may take a long time to, it may
Right.
not be time. But I'm not saying that, I think that's why I think it's important to keep innovating. It's important to tinker in the labs. It's important to encourage grassroots innovations, bottoms up innovations. But I think there's one missing piece. How they say the valley of that, right? That to cross the chasm, and you need different skills to cross that chasm, and that's where my focus is to make sure not all ideas end up in the valley of that, and some have a bridge to cross over to the other side.
Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity, clever, inventive, and original thinking. My name is Ken Tenser, CEO of SpyderWorks, and with me today is Kapil Kane, Director of Innovation at Intel China, where he co-founded and runs GrowthX, an award-winning corporate startup accelerator. He's here to talk to us today about intrapreneurship. Like this video if you enjoy our show, and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who we should interview next. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Say Hi to the Future.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So it's an honor for us. So I think of certain things, that have become kind of common for the rest of us: the multi-touch screen at Apple, iPod, MacBook Air, the iPad. But you have a pretty special relationship with those incredible products.
Yeah. I think the touchscreen, right? That's like my. There's a reason why I left school to go work at Apple, is to build the touchscreen, and now I see it everywhere. Yeah, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, because we find it very hard to limit the screen time for my son on his iPad, and so I keep thinking, was that a good thing to do or not?
There's a good and bad in everything, but
Hmm.
your contributions have certainly helped us communicate. And you didn't just leave any school. You left. Yeah, I just saw you raise that mug. You left Stanford, so you have your master's from Stanford.
I
Um,
do. I do.
and you left what, during your doctorate, or?
Yes, I was doing my doctorate, and I did one. The first summer, I went to Apple for my first internship, and then I went back the next summer, and I didn't come back. And luckily, in those 2 years, I had enough credits to get a master's degree. So I was like, okay, it's why don't I go walk the graduation ceremony?
Very
So yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Very cool
Mm.
journey. And I mean, it's really you grew up in the province of Goa. So I mean, it's quite
Mhm.
a journey for you. How does that come about?
Yeah, I think if anyone knows Goa, it's the most laid back state in India, like beaches, white sands. People are super chilled. It's most like a tourist destination. And how I never imagined to go out of Goa at any point. But I used to always joke that if I did well in my it's a 12th grade, and after that you go to your engineering school or whatever line you choose. And I said, if I get into this particular National Institute of Technology, which was the one closest to Goa, but still it was around 10 hours of a bus drive ride at that time, I would go there. And lo and behold, I got in there. um, I did really well in the entrance exams. And then I had, reluctantly I had to get out of Goa and go to this National Institute of Technology, where I was exposed to the rest of the people, like smart people from all over the country. And they were talking about all this, Stanford and MIT and all this. And then that thing stuck in my mind that, hey, I need to go to Stanford. And then my goal was to get there. But unfortunately, I got a job um, to work in the US. And so, I thought it's better, I work in the US for a couple of years. And then I then I went for my PhD master's program at Stanford. And, somehow, it was not planned, but, one thing led to other, and I ended up there. Yeah.
So it sounds like a pretty good life. And now you find yourself in Shanghai, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I've been living here for the last 15 years now. Yeah. So this is the I think in another year this would be the longest I've lived in one city, because 16 years I lived in Goa and I'm already 15 years here. So next year, this is where I would have spent the most of my life. Yeah.
And so you're with Intel, and
Mhm.
you're built their GrowthX, their innovation platform, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm. Yeah. So we have an amazing culture of innovation at Intel. We are a tech company, and a lot of innovations are tech focused. And we saw this gap, that how do we commercialize all these cool innovations that come out of our labs and from our engineers? And we were I was really scratching my head, and I came across these concepts of startup accelerators, because I happened to go to some a round table at American Chamber of Commerce. I met this guy, William Baubin. He's a general partner at SOSV, Sean O'Sullivan Ventures, one of the actually is the most active seed investor in the world. And I asked him what he did, and he told me about what he does. And I was like, okay, maybe I can actually replicate what they do inside of Intel. And that's where I came up with this idea of building an accelerator. Uh, but then I didn't know this thing called intrapreneurship at that point. And as launching this platform, I invited a professor from a business school, China Europe International Business School, CEIBS. And he actually introduced in that talk about the concept of entrepreneurship. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I built the whole program around this concept of entrepreneur, making our innovators feel like they are an entrepreneur inside. They are the CEO of their own idea, and it's their job to see the idea through. They cannot rely, or they cannot point fingers at marketing or this business development. It's your responsibility, and we build the whole program around that. Um, yeah.
It's very cool. So entrepreneurship, just so we understand it better, I mean, it's really you are looking for internal or corporate entrepreneurs. Is that the gist of it?
Yes, corporate entrepreneurs. And yes, we are looking for them, but they are not all ready. They are they are still innovators. We say we turn innovators into corporate entrepreneurs, so that we give them all the skills they need, the change of mindset, the toolkit, the connections they need, so that they truly become entrepreneurs, and they are able to uh, not just talk about how technically cool their innovation is, but they are able to articulate the business value of their idea, their personal connection to their idea, and why it matters to Intel. Uh, so that's what we want these guys to get out of this, our growth acts. Like, they grow themselves as individuals, from being, I would say, techie, to they put on like a founder hat, where they are responsible for everything about that idea.
So where does it start? Because there's a lot of incredible, things, pu- included in what you're saying. It seems to me it starts with a very passionate individual, and from there you help build them. Is it their passion? Is it their brilliance? What do you look for first?
So here's the thing. If I let me kind of lay out, how innovation works at Intel China. Okay, and this is specific to Intel China, and Intel China is pretty huge. We have 10,000 employees here in China, and so what we have is uh, we have many campuses right across China, and uh, there are many labs from different business units. We also have research labs, and all these people are working on things. And we, just like Google's 15% rule, we have this unwritten rule that you can spend 15% of your time on things that you believe matter to the company. So there's lots of always new ideas coming up in the labs, people tinkering, people uh, building some things, even teams of people who are maybe a part of pathfinding team, and maybe their business unit doesn't think their idea is good enough, but they'll still carry on because they feel passionate about that idea. And so we have these programs like grassroots programs where we seed these ideas, and these are run at the campus level, at the business unit level, at at like a functional group level. So we have all these great ideas being seeded. That means just idea on paper, they're able to turn those idea into like a proof of concept. And mostly these are technical proofs of concept. We also run hackathons to get people to think about new ideas, to get them to understand where uh, our business challenges lie, and just get their creative juices flowing, right? So we have this whole like ideation happening, incubation happening, and then comes GrowthX, and we call it an accelerator. And that's where we pick the people, right people with the right ideas, and then try to put a business hat on them and say, hey guys, come on this journey. And it's like a whole process. It's not like it's quietly we pick people. People apply to the platform. We have boot camps. During the boot camps, we help them turn their technical idea into a 5-minute pitch, and then they pitch this to the jury, and from there we pick 5 teams that get into our accelerators next batch, and we run 2 batches a year. And it's during that time that they really start to understand, oh, there's something called business model, there is value proposition. We need to, everything on the business model is at this time just our guesses, it's a hypothesis, and we need to go have a plan to validate this hypothesis. And we need to go actually talk to the customers, we need to talk to the users. We can't just sit here and do desk research. And we take them on that journey, and at the end of this 16 weeks of acceleration, we have a validated business case or invalidated business case about what they're working on, which we then bring back to the business units or to the sales and marketing teams, account teams, to land them into the market. So it all starts with having a hotbed of innovation, passionate people doing things, and then we find those passionate people and put some kind of a structure around their ideas.
And how do you help them to identify the ideas that might be most germane to Intel? Because I understand, having a clean sheet at the beginning, but ultimately, are there paths of, for new businesses that might not be core to Intel that you still empower them to do, and others that are very core? Like, how does that whole process of selection come
Mm.
about?
So I think this is a great question. Okay, so we are just finishing our 12th batch. So we've been around for 6 years now. So I remember the first 2-3 batches, we were looking for this kind of thing, like, hey, let us just go crazy. Let's build the next big thing. And so we spent our time doing that in the first 2 batches, but we couldn't land anything in the market. These are things like healthcare robots, like a swarm of drones, these kind of things. I mean, they look very cool in a demo, but there is no, at that time there's really no real market need. There is no path to commercialization, and so we were still scratching our head, what's gone wrong. And we started, another thing we found that, for those innovations we're looking at really like our research labs. But then as our accelerator gained more and more popularity within our employee community, we had a lot of ideas which are like adjacent innovations. For example, we have a certain chip, and today this chip is used in this market segment for this kind of use case. But if we just add something on top of it, if we modify the code in a certain way, I can help open a completely new market. Uh, and we saw more and more such ideas coming in, and we were able to then actually land them into the market in a short period of time. I mean, short meaning like 6 months to 18 months, right? Still, it takes time. And so another thing we realized was that our China uh, geo, as a geo, right, for Intel is very customer centric. That means you think of everything manufactured, right? Like Dell, HP, whoever it is, our customers, they manufacture the products right here in China, and 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 you may think that they are designing everything there, like in their headquarters, but a lot of design happens in China from the ODMs. These are the ones who actually manufacture and design, and so we get a lot of uh, like customer inspired, customer driven innovations from our China employee base, rather than like very fundamental, like game changing, I wouldn't say game changing, like like a moonshot kind of innovations, right? So these are more practical innovations, more customer centric. And we kind of learned this as by by getting, like, doing innovations. Like we kind of gravitated towards working with innovations that are more customer centric. We evolved our program to suit these kind of innovations, which are more suited for the kind of people we have in China.
So the other thing I think about is you're describing the people, and we were talking about the individuals and what you look for first. Is it
Mm,
passion or brilliant tech? I mean, it takes a village, as they say. So once that initial idea comes to bear and it comes into GrowthX, how do you build a team? Because there are visionaries and there are subject matter leaders and there are great
mm.
organizational leaders, and you need a little bit of everything to really champion an idea to market. So how does that process evolve?
So what we do, right, is one thing is these are not just individuals coming into GrowthX. Sometimes there is an individual, but different design, like business sprints, and we have totally 8 sprints. We start with the business model canvas, and then we go into value proposition, validation roadmap. But the very first sprint, we ask our founders to have a CEO, CMO, and CTO for their idea, right? And so it's their job to go back and get those individuals on board. And we give them like 2 sprints to get that done. And if they're not able to do, we will ask around if anyone wants to join the team. But as more as the years have passed, we always see teams very well resourced. Other thing is, what we have also seen is that in the beginning, the managers of these people were reluctant for them to spend time on innovations, because they thought this innovation as their own pet project. But as the time went by, as we started creating value, started landing uh, projects into the market, the managers are now, like, they are helping resource these individuals as well from within their business units, many times full time as well. And there are multiple functional groups also collaborating on this project. So that's one way to resource a team. And other thing we do is, many a times we will give them the budget to hire interns, to hire contingent workers. And we also have other kinds of like skill sets in our community. And we run this acceleration outside of Intel. We do it from a co-working space, a startup hub. So things like creating a quick video demo or building a mock-up, we have those things, ready to help them. So that plus our internal resources, we are able to help them, give them a quick boost over this period of 16 weeks, uh, to build MVPs, to build demos, to do market testing. We even, as one of the sprint, we call it Get Out of the Building Day, is we have a market research hackathon where we invite students from business schools around Shanghai and around Shanghai, even from like places which are like 200-300 miles. They come in and join that day to help our teams do this market research, to do like cold calls. So I think we have this whole support structure around them. Also, and we actually work with a third party to run our accelerator. They are a startup by themselves. From their side, we have program director and acceleration managers. And then, so the acceleration managers are the ones who help our teams apply all these tools to their projects. If they like help them, like for example, how do you actually fill up all these boxes in the big business model canvas, or how to do a customer interview, right? So we have that. We have a bunch of workshops. And another cool thing we have is called entrepreneur in residence panel. So these are a panel of 2 to 3 experts who have cre- founded their own startup, or who has run a big P&L in a corporate, who has experience launching products and starting up businesses, who week over week we have this one-on-one 1 hour meeting with these teams to help guide them in the right direction, to check their deliverables and challenge them. So we have all of this structure built so that they
That's
can really get to the next level. Yeah.
that's amazing. I mean, as you describe it, I really love what I'm hearing. Firstly, when you talk about it as a founder, when you talk about it in the sense of a new business and recognizing that it is a new business, that you have the CEO, the CMO, the CTO. So the roles of who's ultimately responsible for the success to bring it to market, the technical success. I mean, these are things that frankly, I've worked with entrepreneurs for over a decade. I've been an entrepreneur in residence. It's a focus of my latest book. And really kudos to you, because I think that these are areas that are often overlooked. So the understanding of the entrepreneurial process, the support that you're giving. The question I have now is, you have the leadership, you have the support. How do you bridge it back to Intel? And what I mean by that is often projects from accelerators that are external or housed externally to the corporation are looked at, okay, that's happening over there, but it's not really real and it's not really part of us. And there's sort of that hesitancy or pushback, if you will. How do you bridge that?
Yes, although we run this thing outside, we are very much a part of Intel, right? The reason we are running it outside uh, is for the convenience of getting access to these skills, this creative people. That's one thing. Second thing is also, like you said, CEO, CMO, CFO, founder. We want them to feel like they are real founders. They're amongst, when they see every other people walking around, they are like startup founders, or they work in a startup, so they have the same kind of energy. But we are very much a part of Intel. So second thing is this: is uh, we are not there trying to work on ideas that are like completely outside of our strategy. So that's another thing, is that we we are like, adjacent innovations and aligned to the strategy. So these are the two things we learned, because I think a lot of times people, when they think of innovation, they think of, oh, moonshots and creating something completely different. But we quickly came to the realization that the kind of place we are in, the kind of people we have here, they are very much customers centered. They are customer focused. They want to solve customers problems. And so naturally, uh, by that definition, the ideas you're working on are very, very relevant to Intel. And so what happens is this: we are basically de-risking new products and services for our business units. Because a lot of times we have this thing called ZBB. Okay, this word called ZBB. It means zero based budgeting. So what it means is, every year we will start from the scratch. So and what happens is, we'll have a list of projects people are working on, and then we look at the budgets. This is from like a planning from the business units, right? And certain projects fall below that ZBB line. That means we have this word saying, oh, that project is ZBB'd. And what it means is that that project might be good, but we have other things to work on. So we are not going to work on this project. And a lot of times, the projects that are ZBB'd are the ones which are quite risky. That means they may have a big payoff, but with the limited resources, like in business units have targets to hit, they might not take on this project because it was risky. The market is not validated properly. It's a new kind of a customer segment, and we kind of see the potential, and we de-risk it for them by this having this different sprints, like hey, business model, value proposition, having a validation plan. And not everything is validated and de-risked. Now what we have seen is, like out of like every batch, maybe we have one success, and but that's still good enough. Like out of like out of 10 every year, if you have one or two market landings, I think it's still a pretty good business wise a success. But I think the biggest success we have seen is people growth.
So I think, what I'm hearing is really critical. And we speak to it so often, is defining success rather than failure. And in North America, we love our baseball. And if you hit the ball 3 times out of 10, you have a 300 batting average. And at the end of your career, you go to the Hall of Fame. In business, we tend to look at things as failing 7 times. And I've always told people, no, stop that. As you said, if you have 1 or 2 landings, you're doing very well. So I love to take the vernacular of failure out of my discussion, and saying that 1 or 2 major successes or moderate successes are excellent. And I think that the fact that you're doing that is, I think it's super critical to morale and to culture and to the perspective that we have. The other thing that I'm hearing you say that we speak to a lot is 100% success can be, we've chosen 2 out of 10, and we've de-risked it, and we've taken it off the table very, very quickly. And that saves a company hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars by not following. So again, understanding success and understanding success can be a quick no. I think those are 2 great things that you're applying.
Yeah. But I think it's a long journey, because I think we do have like this culture of innovation, right? What is the struggle for me is, the definition. People have different definition of innovation, and for a tech focused company, they get very excited with this technology, and what the technology's different parameters are. But in the end, for me, real innovation is using the technology to bring value to the users who are willing to pay for it. Right? That's the real hallmark of innovation. You can have amazing demos in the labs, at conferences, but if it doesn't generate business for you, then it's of no use. But again, having said that, it may take a long time to it may
Right.
not be time. But I'm not saying that, I think that's why I think it's important to keep innovating. It's important to tinker in the labs. It's important to encourage grassroots innovations, bottoms up innovations. But I think there's one missing piece. How they say the valley of that, right? That to cross the chasm, and you need different skills to cross that chasm, and that's where my focus is to make sure not all ideas end up in the valley of that, and some have a bridge to cross over to the other side.
Well, thank you for that. And as our time is starting to draw to a close here, it sounds like through your career, through your journey, you've brought many things to market and many things across that chasm. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's an important message today, and thank you for sharing your journey with us today, and for your time with us on Say Hi to the Future.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure having a chat with you, and just share whatever I could. Yeah.
Thank you.